we present Exosense, a vision-based scene understanding system for self-balancing exoskeletons. As self-balancing exoskeleton technology progresses, these devices are increasingly being used in everyday environments, from homes to public spaces. To better understand the environment and facilitate the long-term operation of exoskeletons, it is necessary to empower them to sense and map the environment. So we present Exosense, a vision-based scene understanding system for exoskeletons, which contains a multi-sensor visual-inertial unit along a navigation stack. We study the benefits adopting wide field of view multi-camera systems for odometry, conduct extensive experiments to evaluate the Exosense scene representation, and integrate Exosense to the Wandercraft personal exoskeleton for localization. The multi-sensor unit of the Exosense system adopts a wide field of view multi-camera setup. 3 AlphaSense cameras are wide-angle global shutter cameras. These cameras are used for state estimation and the semantic SLAM system. A RealSense D435i is downward-facing and used for terrain depth sensing. A RealSense D455 is forward-facing, which is used for environment sensing. The system takes images and IMU data as odometry input for high-frequency poses. An online terrain mapping server takes odometry poses and point clouds from depth sensors to produce sensor rate local terrain maps. The visual language SLAM system takes the odometry poses to generate pose graph, which associates local maps to the nodes. The final representation encodes the terrain structure, semantics, traversability, and visual cues for localization and future navigation of exoskeletons. For experiments, we collected human dataset, which is recorded by mounting Exosense device onto the human leg, and Exo dataset with the Exosense device attached to the thigh of the Wandercraft personal exoskeleton. We studied the benefits of using wide field of view multi-camera systems for odometry estimation in leg walking scenarios. We present the footage recorded during a human leg-mounted walking sequence as part of the human dataset, where the high acceleration and jerk appear in the walking motion that can affect the odometry estimation. Such challenging scenarios can be tackled with a wide field of view multi-camera system. We show the performance of the same odometry algorithm under different camera settings. With the increase of field of view and number of cameras, the estimation becomes more accurate, which concludes that the wide field of view multi-camera system gives the best performance. We then show the online mapping experiment in human leg-mounted mode. The Exosense system can estimate its instant poses, generate the terrain room labels, and produce the sensor rate local terrain maps online. It then associates those local maps to the semantic pose graph to produce the global map. A semantic guided map fusion scheme is then applied to generate a globally consistent multi-floor terrain map and also estimate the terrain traversability. Here, we show a multi-floor terrain map colored by the semantic room labels and traversability. We show the online terrain mapping with Exosense mounted on the exoskeleton deployed in a mixed office and lab environment with occasional passers-by. Solely relying on exteroceptive sensing, Exosense can generate sensor rate terrain map independent of exoskeleton walking gait, which is helpful for short-horizon, low-level decision-making. Each terrain map is then associated to the SLAM pose graph to build the scene representation that benefits the long-term operation of the exoskeleton. When exoskeleton locomotes in the environment, pedestrian can pass by the robot, leaving artifacts on the terrain map. By feeding more measurements into the local terrain mapping module, the cells that previously contained dynamic points are updated with new measurements from the static background. In this way, those artifacts are removed from the online map, leaving only the static environment structure. We show the fly-through video of the resultant map. The submap merging removes the outliers in the local terrain while preserving the geometry of the scene. The terrain representation produced by Exosense can also be used for a localization task of the exoskeleton in a previously mapped environment. We first built a prior Exosense scene representation, then deployed the exoskeleton with Exosense integrated in the same environment to execute the localization task. Once place recognition occurs, the exoskeleton achieves a visual lock into the map. We use a visual bag of words algorithm to select the place candidates and perform PNP to obtain a metric pose estimate of the device inside the map. We combine the place recognitions with the odometry to provide a continuous pose estimate in the localization task. The place recognition is successfully achieved along the whole task. For the 80-meter trajectory, we achieve 60 visual relocalizations appearing every 0.8 meter on average. The localized trajectory can correct the drift when returning back along corridor by place recognition. It can also achieve localization in the unmapped region thanks to the odometry input. We also observed that the odometry estimate was generally reliable across the whole session, except the drift occurs when the exoskeleton returns to map from the unmapped area. But it can get relocalized and correct the drift later by place recognition. The exoskeleton finally passes a narrow doorway and is still able to get properly localized. Thanks for listening.